Bagseed Chronicles is a podcast about cannabis.
Because if your body doesn't hurt, then you can brain properly.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Bagseed Chronicles. We're going to have a garden update for you today. And then we're going to sit down and have an interview with my friend Kayla, who just so happens to be a Budtender. So that'll be very interesting. So enjoy. Uncle Dig's garden update. Hi guys, it is the 25th of July 2021. We are in gardening zone 8B, and this is Uncle Dig with a garden update. The smoke has been moderate, but not enough, I hope, to block out the light. The weather is getting cooler in that the daily highs sometimes dip into the 80s, and I shiver in the yard sometimes shirtless at night. My auto-flowering cannabis is almost done. In fact, if I hadn't run out of room in my drying space, I would have harvested the last one already. As soon as one of my candy cane plants is ready to trim, I will cut down the Afghan mass. I cannot give you yields on the other autoflowers yet, as they're not done drying, but the Tangerine Dream yielded a ½ ounce of smokable flower per plant. I didn't weigh the trim, but I got about 14 1-gram sized joints from the trim. Take that for whatever it is worth to you. My salsa garden is going well. I am harvesting Thai peppers, a very tiny bit of cilantro, and my other peppers will be harvested any day now. I have rainbow chilies, jalapenos, and serrano peppers. And on top of all that, my tomatillos are starting to put on fruit as well. Homemade salsa. Here we come. I'm growing everything but the lime, lemon, and salt. And also, on top of all of that, my photo period cannabis is doing very well, and one of my CBD Dutch treats is already in week 2 of flower and just starting to put on bulk. So that will be nice to not have to buy morning smoke soon. The other 2 seedlings of this type are stretching, but not flowering yet. Keep this in mind with seeds. Just because something is the same cultivar, there is some genetic variance in seeds. This can be fun, but it can also cause problems when providing reliable medicine. Keep this in mind for your garden. My black domina are doing well and are just starting to go over my head. They may flower soon. I am unsure yet. They have an enticing darker hue just around the edges of the leaves. I hope I get a dark flowered variety this time. Part of the reason I bought this black domina was for her rumored dark, almost black appearance when flowering outdoors. Wish me luck. My star killers are doing very well, and I'm sure will start flowering any day. They are over my head as well. Now, of course, it's the Bagseed Chronicles, right? So I've got to grow a Bagseed, and the Bagseed this year is Blue Dream crossed with Strawberry Haze, maybe, allegedly. And it is stretching, and it is now over my head as well. Oh, by the way, in case you were wondering how tall my head is, I am just shy of 6 feet tall. Now, the shortest photo period plant by far I have is the Alien OG. Now, it is doing well and is showing no signs of flowering or pre-flowering stretch. She is still firmly, happily in veg. And really, that's it for today's garden update. Let's overgrow the world. Hey, if you enjoyed this episode of the Bagseed Chronicles, please share it with a friend. You know, the best bag seeds always are shared that way. All right. Hey guys, welcome to the Bagseed Chronicles. I've been in the Oregon scene now for a few years, and no matter where I go, eventually I seem to run into this young woman, Kayla. She is a bud tender, she is a longtime cultivator, she's trimmed, she's performed music, she's worked a festival circus. Please join me in welcoming Kayla to the Bagseed Chronicles.
Hello. It's, I'm glad to be here. It's nice to talk to you again.
Yeah, it's great to have you on, and it's so good to talk to you again. What have you been up to recently?
Honestly, I've been working a lot. We're planning a camping trip. We're going to go with my boyfriend's friends and take my kiddo out and go camping and hang out. But lots of work.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Has it been busy?
I think people have been excited that the world is starting to open back up a little bit. So they're like spending a little bit more, maybe going to the movies or restaurants now, but it's still been pretty steady.
Okay, so do you think a lot of the passive stoners that kind of came into the scene and were buying a bunch of weed are kind of slowly going back to their day to day?
A little bit. I mean, we definitely still have all our regulars, and we've gained a few through this whole pandemic, but I think there's a few people that are kind of going back to what they were doing. They're still smoking, we still see them, but it's not quite as much as we were when everybody was stuck in their house.
Yeah, that makes sense. One thing I noticed, like during the peak of the pandemic, the dispensary was one of the few places outside the grocery store that people could go, and I think that had a lot to do with it, honestly.
Yeah, it was so fun for me because I loved pointing out to people that not only were we federally illegal, but we were also considered to be essential through the whole thing. We were illegal and essential. And that
Well,
was so much fun.
Well, I think that's the kind of the kind of dual like Janus like face that everyone kind of struggles with cannabis, right? It is medicine, it is essential, but it also is illegal, and because it's illegal, it has that stank on it for some folks. And I think that as we move forward and maybe federal legalization comes through, maybe that stigma will start to change a little bit.
I definitely hope so, because we still do get people that come in for their first time and they're still very unsure of cannabis use. Most of those people are coming through looking for CBD options because they're more or less afraid of like the devil's lettuce. It's our job as like the people that have been in this industry since the beginning to really like teach those people that it's not as dangerous and scary as the reefer madness era put it out to be.
Well, and I think maybe it's not benign, but I think as far as intoxicants go, it's about as close to benign as you can get. And I think some of the long-term health effects it can have as far as analgesic property and inflammation is really helpful.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I use a lot of CBD products for my lower back because I have a couple of discs that are just done. They're not happy. And I use CBD products for that a lot. I also use a lot of CBN products at night because I have insomnia.
Yeah, I actually have been growing a CBD strain here in the garden now for this is my second year. Someone gave me a free bag of seeds. They were CBD Dutch treat for from Crop King
Ooh.
Seeds. And I popped them and I grew them a one out last year. And I had a bad, I wasn't really taking as good a care as my plants last year as I could have been. So they were kind of spindly. They needed water and stuff. But this plant still produced pretty well. And it was like a good, and it was advertised at 4% THC and 8% CBD. And it seemed like that's what came out of it. I don't get it tested. It's home grow, but that was about what it was like. So I ended up ordering some more seeds and now I've got 3 of them growing back there now.
Nice. And Dutch treat has such good flavor on it too. I think that's one of
Oh,
my favorite flavors.
this has been some of the best tasting CBD weed I've ever grown. I don't know if you found this, but I found that a lot of the CBD heavy cultivars of cannabis can be harder to grow in they're not as pleasant. I mean, they just don't taste as good. Maybe I'm not as good at growing them.
No,
Um,
I agree with you actually. I've found that most of the CBD that you can grow or that you can even find has almost that hay-like flavor that you're really not desiring.
yeah, yeah, I would say that for sure. And I
Mhm.
think a big part of why I like this particular cultivar is it doesn't have that hay smell.
Mhm. I've definitely run into that a lot. And if I find a CBD strain that has a smell that isn't, hey, I will buy so much of that just because the amount of stress relief that you get from CBD is incredible.
Oh, I agree. I start my day with a joint of something that has a high CBD content in it.
Hmm. I definitely have like a regimen that involves CBD, and it helps with like the amount of migraines I get, the amount of seizures I have. I haven't had a seizure in like 6 months. So
Oh, that's
that's
amazing.
right. Yeah, I'm super stoked. It helps with pain. It makes me able to move more. Like it's an amazing thing that people overlook because it's not quote unquote cool. Like it doesn't get you high, but
Well, it I want to I want to push back on that a little bit. It doesn't get you turned, but I would say it alters your mind. Maybe high isn't the right word, but I definitely think it has an effect.
oh, it definitely has an effect, but it's more so for me at least, it's more of like a body high. It makes your body feel better. And that
Agreed.
in turn makes your brain feel better. Because if your body doesn't hurt, then you can brain properly. Because your brain's not focused on the pain.
For sure, for sure. Are you working on a grow this year? Are you doing any of that, even like a fun home grow at all, or are you just
I
totally in that other
I
space?
wish. I'm kind of living vicariously through friends and customers that show me pictures or tell me about their grows right now. I miss growing a lot though. I'm trying to find a space where I can actually have a grow. But currently, I live too close to an elementary school and I'm not trying to upset any parents.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm right on the border of something like that, but it's so where I'm at, it's a little more acceptable to
Yeah,
cultivate outdoors.
I'm definitely like right in city area. Like there's neighbors on both sides of me that I could touch. So
Oh, yeah, yeah. When you're in those tighter urban areas, even if you're allowed to grow outdoors, if you do, you're probably going to get ripped off.
yeah, or one of your neighbors is inevitably going to complain about the smell, and that is just a whole issue on its own that nobody really wants.
Yeah, so if you're living in town, you'll have to like do an indoor setup when you get an apartment or something at first.
That's kind of goals. It's like a little mini, not quite bonsai, but little mini setup in like a closet or something with some lights, something I can control and that won't stink up my whole neighborhood.
I grew a little 1 ounce plant in a 2x2 in my garage this winter. It was pretty cool.
Cute.
Yeah, yeah, and it was good stuff too.
I believe it. Usually, honestly, when the plants are small like that, they put so much energy into those couple of little colas that they tend to be fire colas.
I've definitely noticed that there seems to be, now this is not with all cultivators, there are some really really skilled large scale cultivators
Oh,
out
yeah.
there, but it would seem to me that as a general, like from a beginning to intermediate level, which I would consider myself on the beginner side of an intermediate level grower, um I would say that as you get bigger you get a diminishing return on flavor, and like the way the plant expresses itself up to about 6 feet, you're in that like perfect territory. And then you get bigger than that and it starts to thin out a little bit. Like maybe it won't be as good.
I can say that I have definitely noticed, especially if you are an amateur grower, if your plant gets super big, it's not going to put as much energy into those colas. It's going to put a lot of energy into those stalks so it can hold the colas up. So you are going to lose a little bit of percentage most of the time in there. You're going to lose a little bit of flavor. You're going to lose a little bit of THC, all that. But there, like you said, there are definitely some growers out there that do these huge monster plants that they are just
Yeah, yeah.
amazing.
Every cola is off of it fire. Like people are like fighting over the smalls at the trim table and stuff off of some of these
Yeah.
plants. And I think a lot of that has to do with a lot of the big grows I've seen. And I don't know if you back me up on this. They all have some kind of trellising to take some of the pressure of holding up the colas on the plant.
Yes. I have never seen a large scale grow that did not have trellising. We call it hippie tripwire because we are literally falling over it on the sites. But I have definitely stood in like 22 acres of legal grow and looked around and seen nothing but hippie tripwire and green.
I've been working on a larger scale medical grow recently with a friend, and they call it hippie nets out there. And it was so funny because I was
Yeah.
kind of laughing, like, and then by the end of the day, I had tripped over the trellising 3 times. I had almost
Yeah.
taken myself off of a ladder with it, getting it caught on my shoe. And by the end of the day, I was telling my partner I was working with, I was like, man, now I know how a fish feels.
Pretty much. I've definitely clotheslined myself on trellising too. Like just not expecting it to be right there.
Oh yeah, yeah. And it's a lot of it's that like vaguely translucent plastic. So if you're not
Mhm.
like looking for it, you can kind of accidentally look right through it, especially on a hot sunny day.
Right. I kind of appreciate the couple of farms I went to that used like the bright orange ones. Those were really cool because they were easier to spot.
Yeah, yeah. I wish there was a cheaper way to make trellis netting that wasn't plastic though, because I mean every year they're cutting those down and they're just throwing them out.
I keep saying the same thing about like the drams and the doob tubes and stuff that we sell product in. Like I think they should start making out all of that out of biodegradable hemp. Like there's got to be a way to cheaply make all of this out of biodegradable hemp plastic because that would cut back on so much for everybody and it puts a use to all the stocks that people are just throwing into like landfills and stuff.
Oh yeah, and like every time I buy a pre-roll, I feel a little guilty, and so I have, and I don't, it takes me like several steps to throw them out, right? Like, I'll I'll put up my own pre-rolls in them for a while, and then inevitably I'll be out and about, and I'll have a joint in a tube, and I'll smoke it, and I'll have nowhere to put it. Then I'll put it out in the tube I had it in, and then I'll throw it out. So it has a long life, but I
Yeah,
still feel guilty throwing them out.
I can relate. I've started using some of mine for like organizing like beads or like rock collections or I don't know, things that I can use them for.
I use them to my seed collection. If I get a particular seed that someone gives me, then I'm really like into keeping for a while. Like I want to pop it one day, but not now, or I want to hoard it to give it to someone else or whatever. I have them in a joint tube with a label on it, and then I'll put it in a cigar humidor, so it's like
I
doubly
definitely have
protected.
those floating around too.
I what kind of seeds do you like to save?
um Usually if I find something, if I find a seed in anything indoor from a dispensary, I generally will hold on to it because that's free genetics that I would have otherwise had to spend like $10 per seed on. So
That makes sense. That makes sense. I tend to I'll keep outdoor seeds too. If the seed is like, if I see the seed and it's really brown, like I know it's mature, so they let the plant like completely finish that seed, and it doesn't pinch between my fingers, and it's from a bud that I really liked, I'll keep it and maybe I'll germinate it down the road. But if it's from a bud that I really didn't like, I'll throw it in the question mark joint tube And I always imagine like that would be like if they ever start an HOA in my neighborhood, I would put that in its landscaping.
All right. I definitely have like a small collection of mystery seeds. If I know what it is, I definitely try to label it and save it though. I'm always checking for seeds though when I grind my stuff up.
Oh, me too. I definitely enjoy finding them. And I feel like I find them more often now than I used to.
I think specifically over this last season that we've had here, because of the big fires that we had last year, a lot of plants tried to herm. And so a lot more plants this last season had seeds in them than I've seen before.
Yeah, I had a purple punch in my yard that it didn't put on seeds throughout, but the buds that had seeds had a couple. I ended up giving some to a friend. It was really weird because it didn't seem like it had been, like you said, it didn't been fertilized, it hermed, It was weird.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we did have a really, really stressful season for plants last year. With, like I said, with the fires right there while they were flowering, all the smoke in the air, a lot of people's plants got stressed.
I lost it. It was perfect. It hit right when my early flowering indicas were starting to bulk. So they were just starting to bulk, and then the sun went away for 2 weeks, and it was horrible. And so I had like the smallest outdoor flowers I have had in years, in the 4 or 5 years I've grown here.
That's honestly how a lot of people's grows went. And a lot of people noticed, like even people that brought their stuff through dispensaries, their numbers were lower. Even the concentrates, their numbers were in the like 60s and 70s instead of in the 80s and low 90s. Like
Right.
everything had just diminished.
Yeah, and we're not even remotely out of the woods yet this season. Anything could happen with how dry it is.
Oh, definitely. Well, and the bootleg fire is, generating its own weather now, so that's fun.
Well, yeah, and there's little spot fires popping up every day around
Oh yeah.
Southern
It
Oregon and out east.
the whole West Coast has been on fire. Just
Y-
the whole West Coast.
Yeah, and you grew up on the West Coast, right? You grew
Hmm.
up in around Southern Oregon, right?
Yeah, I grew up in Ashland and traveled up and down the West Coast after that.
And so you've watched it kind of like change over the last like 10 or 15 years. I started coming down to visit the greater Rogue Valley area, kind of from Grants Pass down to Ashland to visit my partner when I was in the Army, and then when I got out I moved in. But it's changed a little bit. It's definitely, I don't want to say, it's just a little less moist, wouldn't you say?
We definitely, I mean, I remember growing up having snow days and like going and building huge snowmen in the park across the street from my house. And um, I remember even through high school we still had snow days, but I'm not honestly sure I remember the last time it snowed.
I think it was 2 years ago we had a good snow. It,
Okay, I
but
just
but you're
it's
saying it used to be like more routine throughout the winter.
yeah, yeah, it was like a solid thing. We would have like a white Christmas. That was pretty normal, was
Yeah.
that snow on Christmas. And now it maybe snows. It maybe rains a little bit through the spring, but I've definitely noticed a lot less precipitation.
Yeah, yeah. So you've pretty much been involved in the cannabis scene kind of since you came of age. Is that correct?
Oh, definitely. As soon as we started needing permits to work in the industry, I got one. I was working in the industry legally prior to that, but As soon as we needed it, I made sure I had it because, I've been doing this a long time. It's a good place for me to be.
And so you've done everything from, farm work to trimming, indoors and outdoors, and now you're a bud tender. What would you say to someone who's trying to get into the industry?
Start on a farm. Start as like a trimmer or as an entry level, like farm worker. You learn so much in that environment because a lot of those people there just want to help teach the new people because we all want to spread awareness that it's not this dangerous thing, and we want to teach people how to do it the right way. um, and so like the more experienced people on those teams will definitely help you out. And once you've got that kind of experience, you can work your way into dispensaries. Dispensaries tend to want people that have more experience in the legal industry before actually hiring them. So you really have to just kind of prove yourself to work as a bud tender. But farms are where it's at for new people. You really do learn a lot. You learn what the plants like, what they don't like, um, different techniques for how to get rid of bugs, and other nutrient issues. They'll teach you just about anything on a farm.
And so you've worked and did you work for on medical grows at all in the interim while you were working in the industry some?
Um, I mean, they were definitely for medicinal use.
Fair enough, fair enough, fair enough. So because that's always been the kind of scene I've been in around. My end was different. I got out of the army, and a veteran friend who already had a medical card, hooked me up in a really big way and helped me out. So I came to it in a different way than a lot of people do.
See, I definitely was that wild teenager that wanted to rebel and decided to smoke a whole lot of weed through high school. And then later, after, years of torturing my body, I learned how medicinal it actually is. And it totally switched the experience for me. I actually think I work harder for it now that it's medicine than I did when it was just fun.
I think I would agree with that. I definitely would say the your relationship with it is different. I wasn't really into it as much when I was a younger man before I joined the army, but I took to it like a fish to water once I got out, and part of it was that I needed the help. I have body issues and stuff, so.
Yeah, it helps with so many different types of problems too. And I think a lot of people overlook it, but the different terpenes do different things. So the different flavors in your flower do different things for your body too.
Right. So that brings me up to like the next thing I wanted to talk to you about. Like, so if someone was coming into the Oregon market for the first time, and they came to your dispensary and they were looking for, a really basic experience. Like, I want a pre-roll. I want it to be, indica, kind of put me in the couch, but I want it to be approachable. Like, what would you recommend to them? Like, as far as a brand for a pre-roll, and also like maybe even a strain if you've got one in mind.
Um, in the Oregon market, I would say like a really good starter brand, if you're not looking for like just super cheap, does the job. I would say like TKO. It's a Turnkey Organics. They're actually really good. They do little like 2 packs. Um, and they have a lot of different variety. And almost everybody that I know carries them too. So it's like a really good option that you're going to find most places. Their percentages, literally they float all over the place. Sometimes you'll find one that's at 16%, and sometimes you'll find one that's at like 30. So I would, if it's somebody that's pretty new to it, I wouldn't want to just start them with something super super high percentage.
You mean we don't want to give them a 5 gram joint of Bruce Banner?
Probably not. I probably would not give them an infused pre-roll. Um,
So,
but
so TKO, yeah, that's funny. You actually recommended them because whenever I see a strain that I haven't tried, I look for a pre-roll from them with it to kind of judge how the strain is going to be because they're pretty good at expressing the genetics without breaking the bank, I think.
they are really good at it. And all of their reps, like all of the people that I've met that work for their company, have just been really, really good, knowledgeable people, which I appreciate. I like when a company can tell me more about their product than I can tell them.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they're just phenomenal. Honestly, when people come into my shop and they're just like, I need a good pre-roll, I need this, I look at the TKO that we have in stock first. That's like my go-to.
Okay. Okay. That does not surprise me. That's good to hear that they're as popular with everyone else as they are with me. Is there anything that you're particularly excited about right now? What are you smoking on? What are you excited about?
Um, okay, so I have a couple of things I'm smoking on right now. I did actually just get a pack of pre-rolls from TKO. And it's free spears, which is I think something a lot of people in our generation are a little bit excited about with the whole Britney Spears cases going on. But they made a really, really pretty like purple and green flower, and they made packs of it. So I got some of those. And then I've also really, really been digging on decibel dabs. They have been phenomenal. We just got a bunch of like live rosins from them. So I've been smoking on some of those.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So are you more of an indica lady or are you more of a sativa gal? What is your like as far as like effect? I know we're kind of moving past indica and sativa a little bit, but I'm just talking effect. Do you like it to kind of calm you down or amp you up, or is it kind of dependent?
It definitely depends a little bit on the time of day. I mean, I don't generally start my morning with an indica. I usually try to aim for a sativa in the morning, but throughout the rest of my day, after I've had my first cup of coffee, I definitely stay more on the hybrids and indica side. I have too much anxiety to smoke a lot of sativas.
I generally think you're in my head is similar. I think that's one of the early on reasons you and I get along. We kind of tend to avoid the green cracks of the world, if you will.
Yes, I mean it's a good way to start your morning. A little bit of green crack, a little bit of I don't know, laughing Buddha, sour diesel, something to start your day with your coffee. But I definitely could not just do that all day.
I used to have an ounce or something that another home grower had given me of green crack, and it took me 6 months to smoke it. And the only time I would do it is if I had guests coming over that afternoon and I needed to clean my house all morning. And then green crack was my friend because to me, green crack hits my head like Adderall.
Yeah, it's like actual crack.
And I
It
think that that's what's so great about terpenes and like different profiles. They can really put a twist on the same old experience.
definitely. And I even sometimes I'll get like there's certain companies that'll make terp sauce, like extractioneering. They make these little terp sauce vials. Sometimes I'll get flour that maybe doesn't quite do what I want it to do, and I'll just put some terp sauce on it.
Huh.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
See,
Basically,
I've
my own
seen
run.
those.
They're extractioneering. If you haven't heard of them, they're actually really, really cool. I absolutely love what they stand for. They try to donate parts of their proceeds to different underprivileged people just of the world. I mean, they focus mostly on Oregon because they are an Oregon company, but they're phenomenal and their product is actually really, really good. I have a lot of their stuff.
So how do they make the terp sauce? Are they extracting cannabis plants or are they using other stuff? What are they doing? Like,
So I'm not like 100%, like don't quote me on this company's exact process, but um they do their little extraction process and then they let it sit so that they can make their diamonds and stuff as well. And then they basically take all the terps from the top of their jar, because the top layer of their stuff ends up being the terpenes. And they just take the terps off the top of the jar and fill them up,
That's
like fill
cool.
vials. Yeah, it's super cool. One of their vendors came and showed me a picture of one of the like jars that they had creating diamonds, and it was so cool. He had so much information. It was amazing.
Yeah, all that stuff is like, passively interesting to me, but I generally try to stick with flower. But some of that other stuff is interesting, how they've come up with different ways of separating different aspects of the plant into its raw components. It's very interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and the different processes to make the different consistencies, and then with like the vapor cartridges, those, there's different processes for that too. It's crazy to know how it's all made and to watch it happen.
Yeah, yeah, and some of this stuff is really cool, and some of the other stuff I've been hearing is not as cool. Like, have you heard about like this Delta 8?
Yeah,
It's synthetic, right?
yes and no. I mean, like, it's a real thing, but the way that they isolate it is like a whole other process. I mean, in when you're using it in combination with like just regular Delta 9 THC, it it gets you super super twisted, but I think we've only ever actually sold a Delta 8 product once, and I got some as a sample, like one time.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah, and that was kind of my experience. I ate it and then I kind of like, well, what is this? And I looked it up and I was like, I don't like I am really hesitant to like recommend it to anyone because it seems like it depends, like what you're getting kind of depends on the good faith of other people. And I think a lot of it is like really nasty, like hemp, like reprocessed to make Delta 8.
I honestly am not even 100% sure. So far, the only people that I've actually recommended it to are the people that are like, "Oh yeah, edibles don't get me high," and I'm like, "But have you tried these?"
Yeah,
Too.
I had that
Or I'll
experience
recommend
too.
like the SIPS products, because they have like the 250 milligram and 1,000 milligram like drink shots. Those are insanity.
Have you ever wait, so let me ask you about the drinkable stuff. So if I were to come into the shop right now, what like I could get a drinkable THC drink?
Yes. Well,
So
okay. So the ones that we have, they're like a syrup. I refer to them as a beverage enhancer. Um,
okay, I gotcha.
when I use them, I'll get like a Sprite or something, something very light in flavor, or like a lemonade. And I'll put a little bit of that into my drink, because if you drink it straight, it's really it's thick like a syrup, and it is very very concentrated flavor. So so it's a little bit better when you mix it in with something, but they're really good. They work really well.
They're a little bit faster than traditional edibles, I heard.
Yeah, I have definitely noticed liquids just metabolize quicker. I think your body just doesn't have to do as much to break it all down. Because almost every liquid THC that I have had has worked within, 20 minutes or so, versus the like 45 minutes to an hour that it takes me with a solid edible.
So not like a brownie where you can eat it at home and then drive to the show and get out of the car and go sit down and then it'll hit.
Definitely not. Like, you want to park your car first, because it's gonna hit while you're setting up your blanket to sit down on. My first experience with the Sips beverage, I was actually working a festival here locally. It was Spring Awakening, and we we were having a great time. I went to a homie's pop up, and they were offering samples of the Sips drinks to people that were of age. And I was like, yeah, let me have some. And they hand me the bottle, and before I could, process that they were telling me not to drink the whole thing, I took it like a shot. It was 250 milligrams.
Oh, oh
and
no.
and then I competed in a little competition called the Last Dabber Standing, which
Of course you did.
I did. They give you like a little nectar collector and a little platter with a gram of dab just like plastered onto the platter, and you have 5 minutes to get as much of that gram off of the surface as possible.
You finished it, didn't you?
Oh, I did. I definitely
Of
did.
course you
I
did.
did not win.
How did
The
you
guy
not win? You are like the dab queen.
I am, but the guy that won was like the fucking dab master. Dude's name was Geronimo. He's an older gentleman, and he was actually my neighbor at camp that year. So he and I had a great time just chatting it up afterwards, and we were kind of cheering each other on while we were doing the whole thing. There was like multiple sections, so if you were one of the couple in your grouping that won, then you went on to the next round type of deal. So I got to go to round 2. Yeah, I got to go to round 2, and then I did not make it past that because the sips had kicked in. I had just smoked a full gram to my dome. I was done.
So for everyone, this isn't a gram. This is a gram of concentrated BHO twice.
And 200 milligrams of sips, and then I still had to be on shift for like another 4 hours. So that was fun.
So you could stand.
Yeah, I did sit for most of it, but I could stand if I chose to. I was very capable of walking to the porta potty.
I don't know if I would be able to do anything. I think I would probably pass out and porta potty myself, if I'm being honest, if I had that much that quickly.
There was definitely a couple of people that like tapped out and went and took a nap afterwards. It is not for everybody.
Well, and you're one of the people I've seen who can put away dabs. Like it's a skill you have.
Definitely a skill I have. I have probably like 50 or so different containers of different types of dab right now. And then, I mean, that's just my dab. I also have cartridges and flour and pre-rolls, like a little mini dispensary in my room.
Well, that sounds like a party and a half.
Usually, I mean, if I'm not at work, I'm pretty much always smoking something.
Yeah,
it's a cigarette, to dab something. Yeah.
I try to be, but recently I ran out of home grow. So until my tangerine dream and stuff is done, cure it, I have to be studious with my consumption, unfortunately. But I'll be fine coming up here soon.
Oh, that sounds good. Tangerine dream.
Yeah, it's this autoflower I tried this year. I grew it in a little 3-gallon fabric pot in the backyard, and I grew 2 plants of it, and each one gave me a half ounce, and I fed them and everything, but I didn't trellis them. I just tied them to a stick, and I didn't train or top them or anything.
Well, I mean, for a home grow, you really don't need more than like some sticks and twist ties.
Yep. I've kind of got an elaborate version of that right now going on in my pots.
I mean, you really don't need more than that unless you're doing like a larger scale grow. I mean, if you've got a lot of plants, definitely get yourself some trellising. But I mean, if you've just got a handful of plants, just invest in some sturdy bamboo.
Yeah. I have those flexible metal poles, and then I've got some tomato tomato twine. I've got tomato twine because where I'm growing, I know you've worked on a grow out near here. It's very windy. So if I put them in cages, a lot of times if a really bad wind rips through, the branches will break on a cage. So I put them in like a flexible like twine hoop thing that I make, like a tomato ring out of a twine, and then I intersect more twine up at the top to close it off at the top, and it's like a very light trellis.
All right. Definitely sounds less like it's going to hurt you later than the trellising does.
No, the only thing I've had a problem with is running into the end of the stakes, but I've gotten good about watching where I'm going.
I've definitely done that here a couple of times where I've like accidentally kicked a bamboo thing on our like personal grows, because before they set in all the you have to grow inside blah blah blah, because where I live they told us we have to grow inside now, but we definitely had like bamboo stakes that I ran into a couple of times. That was not fun.
Oh no, they'll hurt you.
Oh yeah.
Well, hey, thank you so much for coming on to the Bagseed Chronicles and visiting us for a little while, Kayla. Is there an Instagram or something that you do online that you'd like to plug for the audience so they can come follow you or come check you out?
I mean, if anybody wants to follow me on Instagram, it's Dab Queen with a K, 425, representing the Everett area. But you guys could definitely follow me on Instagram if you want. I'm not on there a whole lot, but I will respond if anybody has questions too.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the Bagseed Chronicles. Let's overgrow the world.
Yes, thank you for having me. Stay lit and happy medicating.
Hey, you too. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Bagseed Chronicles. You can contact me on Instagram at Uncle Dig or at my email, uncledig4@gmail.com. The producer of the music found on this podcast is Chad DeVilliers. He can be found on YouTube at Ukuleles Are Stupid and on Instagram at Chadwick Enterprises.